Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pod-Kura. I am here with Mewbushie, and he will be my guest for today because Avarita is out for the week. You?
F.
Yeah, there we go.
F in the chat.
F in the chat, boys. All right, Mew. I have been watching you for a bit since I saw your first bit of stuff when we were auditioning for Omega SMB.
Yes.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I gotta go start looking around into the Minecraft community around there. And from there, I was led to first I found Hellspawn, Lucky, which just goes by Toon Lucky now, right?
Yes.
And they.
Any and all.
Any and all.
Lucky and I are gender buddies. We both just use any pronouns. It's great.
You going around stealing everyone's pronouns, are you?
Yeah, that's actually the real trans agenda. Is we're coming for everyone's pronouns.
Oh no! How terrible!
You've actually made a terrible mistake putting me on your podcast because that increases the reach of the pronouns that I can take.
Oh no!
That's the whole reason I started Twitch streaming in the first place.
So you could go into infect the minds of the youth, obviously.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever seen Doctor Who, but in the second season, there's a fun episode where there's this parasite that reaches through the TV and steals people's faces. That's me, but with gender.
Wait, so if you're stealing people's gender, are they losing it? Or do they become like a nothing? And it's just
you'll find out.
Oh,
after this recording.
Oh dear Lord. That's something. I grew up in a Mormon community. I never really. I met the first bisexual person in my life when I was in high school. So I was not really like, my uncle was gay, and that was about it. That was the only kind of stuff. He's a drag queen.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. My mom and sisters go to his shows often. But otherwise than that, I am entirely a newbie when it comes to this. I'm a cis straight white man. I am very supportive. That may sound like a joke, but I'm actually hugely in support. Yeah. I'm no Republican here. I'll get political. Let's go. Yeah, and I last podcast I was doing with Abby, I was talking, and I accidentally misgendered Tricky twice, and I screamed at myself for doing that because Tricky is awesome. I didn't mean to. Yeah. I just have issues with that. I just accidentally misgender people. I like the non-binary stuff, so I can say anything about I can just keep mixing them up all the time and be okay. I just have bad memories.
That's actually the real reason why I pick any pronouns is so I'm not an inconvenience. No, and that's understandable. I grew up in Idaho, which is one of the most conservative states in the country.
Yeah, being on the eastern side of Washington, I can feel that.
Yeah. Shout out to worst education system in the country. Let's go.
Oh yeah.
No, but so I was fortunate enough to be in towards the capital where I lived for when I was younger. So it was a bit more progressive, but it was progressive for Idaho, so it was still very deeply conservative. But I only my only experience with the LGBT community before I came out was in high school, and people kind of I knew two other gay people, and then I knew a trans man, but it was.
Yeah, so what do you classify yourself as? I'm just curious.
So, as far as gender goes, I'm for ease of most people, I either say that I'm trans and or non-binary. If you want to get a little bit more specific, I'm I believe it's called demigender fluid, which basically, for the most part, it's gender fluid. It's just there's always that little bit of girl in there.
Who's not in touch with their feminine side a bit? Love getting myself a little spa every now and then.
Wish that was me.
Oh no! Last time I went to a spa, I was. Nah, I went with some people, and I don't really hang out with those people anymore. But it doesn't really matter. Yeah. So.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where like I use any pronouns, but I'll typically have a preference for pronouns on certain days, and it's statistically more likely that I will prefer to she her pronouns, sort of, if that makes sense.
All right. I don't want to be insensitive here. What was your born gender? Is that what I want to say, or your previous affiliation?
Assigned gender at birth.
Assigned gender. That'd be. I'm very new to this. I apologize.
No, you're good. I was born, and for a while I identified as a man.
Oh, okay. But you go by the she and and then the they every now and then.
Really went just full trans. Basically as soon as lockdown started. COVID was actually like for all the amounts of things that actively sucked about it. It gave me time to be introspective and not be pressured by
Outside
living in a very
forces.
conservative state and being too afraid to express anything other than typical masculinity, sort of a thing. And then as soon as that happened, my whole gender just unraveled.
It was in a box. You just accidentally opened it and just walked away.
Gender,
like, oh shit, there goes my gender.
Is a sweater. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, when I was young, the most trans-friendly thing I've read and stuff. You ever read Ranma One Half?
Yes. Oh,
that was
I
one of my
favorite
ones. One of my favorite characters is
maybe should have been assigned as a kid.
One of my favorite characters is the ninja gal who's actually a guy, and I freaking love them so much throughout the entire series. I was like, when are they going to come back just for a bit?
Mm-hmm.
And some of the trans community actually don't like Ranma One Half. I found that out, and I was like, really? I was like, why would they not like it? Because some people think that it's an insult to the trans community, and I thought it was kind of weird because Ranma has always considered himself a man, even though he still is female every now and then. That would seem like non-binary to me, because they go in the actual manga, you can see him go out and dress up as a girl, but he still considers himself a man.
Yeah, I think part of it is how Ranma views the transition between gender. I haven't read the entire series, but especially in the beginning, it is handled as more of an inconvenience and or like a curse. And like and I can see how that would upset people in the trans community. Because it's not Rama being comfortable in switching between either or. It's either A, played for comic relief, or B, played as this thing that they're actively trying to fix and change so that Ranma's no longer being forced to identify as female, sort of thing, you know?
And I will go for a spoiler from a manga from 1989, but it does not get fixed in the end. It's still it's a comedy manga. It's a martial arts comedy manga, and that was actually the first manga that I actually read, which actually got me into reading manga entirely. Mm-hmm. So without that, I wouldn't have gone into Dragon Ball. I watched Dragon Ball, but my dad said anime was stupid. He didn't want me to watch it. But then Ranma. Watching the anime of Ranma, my mother strictly forbid anime after that, after she saw some things in there.
Oh yeah, I owned like the first 2 or 3 volumes of Ranma One Half when I was a kid. And then my mom saw that Ranma switched gender, and I was no longer allowed to read Ranma One Half or most mangas. Like most things in my childhood, it was then had to be strictly approved on what I could read, and they weren't happy that I was reading it in the first place because it was quote not real books. And
that was the dumbest stuff. I mean, I found myself closer relating to manga, and I was an artist. My mother, after she saw it, was like, "Oh, you draw a bit," and she was an artist, and her mother and mother before that, line of artists. And she's like, as long as he's drawing, he's being creative about what he's doing, I'm totally okay. But then my brother was reading one of the Ranma books and opens up to this part where the teacher is a little girl who changes into a sexy adult woman and has this mini skirt, and she saw the mini skirt and said, no more of that. Ranma changing gender, showing tits, fine. Child turning into a sexy woman, no. And I was like, all right, whatever. And I remember I got in trouble because apparently my aunt thought we were watching hentai when we were watching Bleach.
Okay.
I don't know how that came up, but that was a good point where we were just confused, and we showed her an episode of Bleach, and she's like, yeah, okay. Growing up with in a Mormon household was always strange for me, since I'm not even for that anymore. It's a strange thing growing up with religious family members, and you're just like, why is there so much hypocrisy?
Yeah. Handshake meme, growing up in deeply religious families.
Yeah, it suddenly smells of hypocrisy in here. Oh no, the Catholic Church. Yeah, and it was just, and some of my family members are just entirely ridiculous, and I entirely have cut myself off from family members, and removing myself from people who are clearly not even listening to a good, like, I'm just being a nice person. Why, like, originally I tried to appeal to my Republican family members about the trans community and the LGBTQ community. That's a combined. The T is trans, right?
Yes.
So LGBTQ plus community. I said it like this. I'm like, if you're at Subway and you order a sandwich and someone else orders a sandwich ahead of you and it's not the sandwich you like, you don't yell at them, do you? Why does it matter to you what another person does?
Right.
Which I always just like, yeah, you can't just throw stones when you're in a glass house like these insane people. Like the Mormon Church was part of the Boy Scouts, and the Boy Scouts had that huge thing about sexual assault allegations towards young boys. So, you know, God, they're just like Catholics. And we
I remember Boy Scouts.
Yeah. They did not let me pass Boy Scouts because I couldn't swim. I had a deep fear of water. And yeah.
That's fair. I was pressured into joining the Boy Scouts, and I actively had a bad time. And so rather than my parents being like, maybe the Boy Scouts aren't for my child, they're like, no, it's definitely just the troop of Boy Scouts, so we're gonna try like 5 more before we give up.
Right.
I was like, no, it's not the troop. I promise it's not the troop. Like, the troop didn't help, but it's just kind of the structure of the Boy Scouts, I promise.
I made some friends with people in the Boy Scouts, with people I don't talk to anymore, because, you know, I find out that some of them are very not good people. Mm-hmm. It's like, wow, how did I not see these things when I was younger, when I had these talks with people? And I'm just like, it kind of boggles my mind, because when I was young, all these memes started coming up of Mormons and whatnot, and I was like, there's no way all that stuff is true. I'm a Mormon, I don't see that stuff. But no, that stuff's whack. And I was just always just like, maybe it's just this small fraction. It's like, if people are joking about it this highly, obviously it's not just a small fraction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's switch away from a heavy topic. Let's go for a lighter topic.
Okay.
We don't want, you know, it's called breathing for air, you know? It's a heavy topic, then you go up a bit, you know? Let's go for stuff.
Welcome to the podcast. Let's talk about
trauma
in deeply religious households and the trauma associated with it. Just to start off with,
you've been playing a lot of games with Tricky.
Yes.
Having to switch up your circadian rhythm for that.
My sleeping schedule's always been a bit messed up. But yeah, typically what'll happen is if they're playing in the morning and I can't sleep, I will just stay up and play like Dead by Daylight or whatever.
Yeah, the times that they start streaming, I'm just like perfectly like either getting ready for work or at work. If I'm on day shift, I'm at work. If otherwise, I'm getting ready for swing shift work. So I'm like, I'm never gonna join them and play some Dead by Daylight or Minecraft. I'm like, I gotta get up early to play with you guys and go into Dead by Daylight.
Yeah, as far as trick, because I'm a mod in trick streams,
Yeah.
and so I have alarms set for their schedule so that so I try my best to wake up in time. I actually slept through their stream today, which is the first time I have not been at a Trick Eagle stream in months, if at all. This might be the only one I've ever missed.
Yeah, I don't get to watch
Completely.
them on day shift. I popped in on my break for about 2 minutes because I didn't have a lot of
Mhm.
time, and yeah, I saw them playing around. And some I did not know what they were playing. I was like, this is weird. I probably get back to work
Oh,
because yeah,
they're probably playing Inscription, would
yeah,
be my
that was the
guess.
one. I was so confused about looking at that.
Oh, I'm very excited. I want that game so bad. It looks
What
so
is it?
good.
I'm so confused.
So it's like a roguelike deck builder.
A rogue, so
Um
like Slay the Spire.
yeah, kind of. Where essentially you start with a deck and then you kind of you add cards and then fine tune it. But the nice thing is you are essentially always playing against the same person, and they're like doing like sort of like scenarios and that sort of thing that you have to conquer. And then there's like um if you die, if you lose, and they take your soul and put it into a card, and you can actively make some decisions about like the card's cost and the card's power and its effects and things like that, and then it gets put in your deck for future runs.
All right, so this is like I'm seeing this as like a wide spectrum of games you play. So that's pretty cool. You got this Inscription that you want to get. You're playing Dead by Daylight, and you also play Minecraft. Are there any other games?
Yes.
Does that just like bridge this?
Uh
They're very far apart. I would think.
Animal Crossing, Pokemon, Zelda are kind of the other big three.
Yeah, I can start to see
Um,
links between them. Just starting to cast strings and
yeah.
connect them slowly. I would love to play Minecraft more, but I am
Mhm.
a hugely social person, so when I play it by myself, I get bored rather easily.
Yeah,
So it's hard for me to actually stream it if I want to. If
that's
I,
fair.
yeah, maybe if I become a larger streamer, I don't stream often, I could actually stream and actually have fun talking with chat and whatnot. I stick myself into more Souls-like games, though, and third person,
Yes.
because that's what I enjoy to do.
Mhm.
Like, the new Elden Ring coming out, I pre-ordered that, and I was like, I'm gonna wait for this.
Yeah.
I haven't signed up for the network test, and I don't think I will. My PS4 is out over my TV. I was thinking about it, and I was like, maybe I could stream it. I'm like, nah, it'll be fine. I'll just wait for it. And I've been playing Dark Souls 2 with Avaritia
Mhm.
and my wife. It's one of the slower games.
Yeah, I've never played any of the Soulsborne games. They look very interesting. I just it is one of those things where it does look like it's a lot of beating your head against a brick wall until you break through.
Yeah.
Um, which on the one hand is very satisfying when you do, but on the other hand, you are beating your head against a brick wall, and I'm like, I could just be playing like Minecraft right now.
Yeah. If you had someone who understood the game and just told you how to play, it feels great if once you know what you're doing and you just speed run the game because you're just like, yeah, I know what
Mhm.
I'm doing here. And for intro games for Dark Souls 3 is it's brutal. The first boss my wife finally beat once uh last week, and she celebrated by getting drunk because it was like the first time she would have to give me the control and be like, here, beat this for me, and I'm like, all right. But she finally beat the boss on her own.
Nice.
Dark Souls 2 is an easier game to play, and
Mhm.
I say it's the best one to get into. It's separated its story from the other two games, but the issue with it is that the first bit of it is a bit confusing. Sorry,
Yeah.
words.
Yeah.
Because it starts out in this hub area, and the hub area is very complicated and loops in weird spots.
Mhm.
Dark Souls 1 is a classic, obviously.
Yeah.
But as I was talking with Avaritia, it is a hot trash pile that just made better games.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I've seen some Dark Souls gameplay, and yikes.
It's
Um,
that's what it is. I have been just waiting. I was waiting for its remaster to come out. And then when it did, I was just upset. Because, you know when you remaster a game, you give it a facelift, a beauty. Have you ever played the Shadow of the Colossus remake?
I have not played Shadow of the Colossus.
Anyway, Shadow of the Colossus was a beautiful game when it was old. And once they remastered it, Blue Point Games, holy crap, it looks amazing. Like, you can watch Jacksepticeye play it, and I love just the entire beauty of it. But when they did the Dark Souls remastered, doesn't look good.
Yeah.
It looks like they just republished the same game and did nothing to it. And I suppose that's fine if they were trying to earn money for other games, but I feel like they're just bleeding Dark Souls dry a bit. So, that's my opinion. But have you heard about Vampire the Masquerade?
Yeah, I've heard a bit about it. I'm into a decent amount of tabletop stuff. Less so now, just because I don't have as much time. But
what about the video game Bloodlines?
I've heard about it in passing, but I've never really seen anything about it.
Well, recently, they made a battle royale game, free to play.
Huh. Okay. Not where I thought Vampire the Masquerade was gonna go but okay.
I feel like they're using it to fund their next game, which I have on my wish list. Vampire the Masquerade's Bloodlines 2.
Mm-hmm.
And that is actually they said that one's gonna have choosing your own pronouns and whatnot, and you get to experience Seattle. So I can't wait to have fun in Seattle as a vampire.
Yeah, the most luxurious of cities.
You call it luxurious? I've been there.
I was born just outside of Seattle.
Yeah,
so I have family over there. Can't wait to be a vampire. Actually, you know what? No, Seattle's good. Seattle would be good for vampires, considering it rains like 360 days out of the year.
The joke was when I went back when I was in high school to visit my dad. My parents are divorced, and I was visiting my dad. They're like, "We're gonna go through the Seattle Underground tour," and we learned a lot of things about Seattle. And the dude who was the guide, he's just like, Seattle happens to rain 13 months out of the year. And everyone just started laughing. I'm like, that's entirely true thing right there.
That's what it feels like, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we get that with Twilight as well. The Forks and in Seattle, all the vampires there.
Love thinking about a vampire spending their day at the Pacific Science Center.
Dude,
just doing the bubble
loved
and
going to
that.
Let's see, for my sister's birthday, she's like, we gotta go to the Harry Potter exhibit at the Pacific Science Center. And I was like, that's lame. And I went there and I was fucking booed, okay? They booed me because all the kids went up and chose their Hogwarts house with the talking hat, and it grabbed me and I was like, Slytherin, and everyone fucking booed me. And I was like, fuck these people. And it was, I was like 14, so I was like kind of upset. Angsty, and I was like, Slytherin's a fine place. And it's like, there's a lot of cunning wizards in Slytherin, don't be so angry. I was like, man, these people suck.
Man, cunning is just what you call smart people who are evil. There's never a good connotation for the word cunning. They're like, this person is cunning, and they're like, oh, and also they volunteer at like a youth shelter. That's never the follow-up. They're like cunning, and then it's like, oh, and they spend all of their free time rubbing their fingers together diabolically.
I mean, it's not helpful that J.K. Rowling was just a terrible writer when it came to Slytherin.
Wow.
It was, and she's a terrible person.
J.K. Rowling was just a terrible writer. Full stop.
I mean, I've watched a few video essays about how Slytherin could have been made better. Like, imagine if Cedric Diggory was a Slytherin character. Like, nothing about his character changed, but that instead of him being Hufflepuff, he was Slytherin. That would build more depth into Slytherin rather than just everyone being generic evil person.
Yeah, imagine if any of the Slytherin characters weren't just antagonists.
Yeah, and she's like, I have to build upon it in my new book play, so Slytherin characters are actually all right people.
Yeah,
and I just looked on Twitter and saw some stuff about J.K. Rowling, and I was just upset reading all of it. And I was like, why did I do this? And I was like, I know she's a terrible person. Like, I remember Wilbur Sitt doing that little stream a long time ago, being like, yeah, I believe Daniel Radcliffe, Harry Potter, wrote Harry Potter, and refused to acknowledge J.K. Rowling because of her trans comments, which were some dumb takes.
Yeah, she's a TERF.
What's a TERF? I've been hearing this, TERF, and I don't know what it means.
TERF stands for a trans exclusionary radical feminist. So, in layman's terms, they are women, and usually specific. They are feminists, usually specifically women, who believe that trans women are not real women. And a lot of the time, it's because trans women don't get things like periods and things like that. So it's a lot like, well, medically they're not, which is garbage. And
their sex is different than their gender.
It's and I mean, it's one of those things where if you identify as a woman, you're a woman, and that's just how it works. But
I don't see a problem with that. I'm on TikTok and I'm looking around. And I was scrolling through and I saw a man. I was like, that's a man right there. They took off their shirt and they had tits. And I'm like, and they were talking about how they didn't get their top surgery because it's too expensive. And they ended up as a man. I'm like, yeah, you're a man. I see a beard there. I'm like, that's a man right there. Regardless of what's going on. And I've seen women who look trans women who look better than other women.
Than
women. That's the word.
Woman, but,
and it's just like, I don't know. It's one of the things I have ingrained in me is saying sir or ma'am to people. Mm-hmm. And that is sometimes an issue. I was in Seattle and I was shopping at Spencer's and I got my wife a flask that said my heels are bigger than your dick because I'm a romantic. Anyway.
Yeah, that's a lot.
No, it was just a pink with the little golden letters that says my heels are bigger than your dick. And I'm like, that's perfect. And so I got it for her. Mm-hmm. And I go up and there's this woman there. Full beard, pink beard, and pink hair, entirely dyed. I said, excuse me, sir, I'd like to buy this. Because I'm just being polite. That's how I was raised. They're like, it's ma'am. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. Excuse me, ma'am, I'd like to buy this. And it was that simple. That was all I had to do. There was nothing else. I didn't have to walk out and be like, I'm not buying anything here. Yeah. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with just being like, yeah, okay.
The one nice thing about growing up in like sort of more the Midwest area, is I usually I use the words folks and y'all a lot, which are both very gender neutral.
Those are gender neutral.
Which is, that's good for the Midwest for really, really coming out there and using gender neutral terms, even if they're not intentionally gender neutral.
I mean, I've started using just boys, BOI, boys. Everyone's a boy. You're a boy. Tricky's a boy.
/ gender neutral.
Have you seen the Gus and Eddie podcast? They talk about the boys. Everyone's a boy. Everyone's part of the boys, Anyone you talk to is a boy. You just be like, yo, what's up, boys? And they're just like, oh, technically, it's like, no, everyone's a boy.
I'm a little guy in the same way that you would see like a dog and be like, oh, what a little guy. Or like a bug.
No. I'm breathing. Okay. Why does that make me... I don't know. The way you said it just made me laugh too much. I don't know. Oh, Christ. I'm gonna die, I think. I'm breathing. Okay. I mean, there was a scenario. I was at the gas station, and the person, it was their first day on job, I can clearly tell, with them getting all these questions with their coworker, and they look at me. I'm just buying a soda. That's all I want. I go into this place to grab this velvet red soda from Barg's, because it's one of the only places you can get it, and it's delicious. Mm-hmm. And so I go in and get it, and I was like, and they're like, thank you for shopping here, ma'am. And they just like get this like whitewashed face over them because I don't know, because they're just embarrassed that they might have misgendered me or something. I look over them, I'm like, have a good day, and I walk out. It was just like, all right, okay. I don't think that makes me trans. It's just me just being okay, not messing up people and stuff. I have a feminine side, I know that. I know I'm clearly not as manly as this toxic masculinity out there is supposed to be. And I'm okay with that.
Well,
I hope I'm not getting you too worked up. I don't mean to be insensitive at all.
You're good.
Because
yeah.
Sometimes I feel like I come off of as insensitive, and I don't mean to. So yeah,
talking as a trans person who did for a very long time did not grow up as one. You are making active efforts to understand and correct yourself when you make mistakes, which is a lot better than the majority of cis straight men.
Oh yeah, I don't see an issue with trying to correct yourself.
And that tends to go a long way.
I mean, when I was younger, I was raised in just a small town, and so obviously I wasn't like a Democrat then.
Yeah,
I was just some fucking idiot kid who's 18, and as soon as I leave that area, and I'm just like, wow, some of my political decisions are not okay things to think.
Yeah.
I was entirely supportive of the LGBTQ community then, as I am now. It's just how I went about it then. I was kind of a cunt, as what some would say.
Well, yeah, it was a thing where you were progressive in an area where people were not typically progressive, and so you didn't have the resources.
Oh yeah.
To learn and change, and that so after high school, I went to college for a year in Massachusetts, which is pretty far away from where I lived.
Several
you could say
miles.
It's the whole opposite side of the country.
Yeah, nearly.
But going to college there was a little bit of a mistake because it was just a mess. But the good thing about it was I was able to, for a year or so, live in a environment that was that provided me the resources to start changing my viewpoints outside of the closed information that I had.
Yeah, it's just like this echo chamber of everyone being in the same spot, and they're just like, everyone here agrees with me. Part of my religious town here.
It was one of those things where you were considered progressive if you respected women or were kind of cool with gay people, and then you typically didn't have to think much harder than that because you were already far more progressive than the majority of people you interacted with. But in actuality, as far as a much larger scale, you still it was a situation where those progressive viewpoints were not as progressive as you thought they were. So.
Oh yeah. Looking back at myself, I feel like I was like a social, more of a liberal Democrat. But now I know that I'm more of a socialist Democrat now. I'm like, oh yeah, fuck, everything is awesome. Like comparatively back then, it was just like me just being not really. I don't know. I look back on it and I was like, that looks like a fucking incel. I just look at myself and I want to delete all history of me from the internet. Just all of that I want gone. I remember just, oh my god, I'd hang out with women all the time, and I was just a fraternizing little teenage boy who was a cunt. But now, having a family and a wife who is part of the LGBTQ community, I'm just like, my sister came out as lesbian like a few years back, and she got dropped by a lot of my family members, which I thought was just, it pissed me off so much watching my family just drop her like that, because she was one of the favorites, and then they just dropped her. And I just started cursing at my family members, so they dropped me. And there's some more stuff with that, more deep-seated hatred. And I'm glad I'm more progressive now.
Yeah.
And going about, I want my children to be raised in a place where they're actually loved and they actually care about other people, not just being self-centered. I want them to understand other people's. I want them to be more empathetic towards other people. That's all I want. Mm-hmm. And so I want the United States to be like that. And I feel like we can get to that and be nice to all kinds of people and not have to worry about anything. It shouldn't be just being like forcing people to be in your standards of your small ideal world. Everyone's different, so that's all that matters to me. I feel like we get back down. We need to go back up every now and then. I'm so sorry that I keep dragging you down.
No,
I'm
okay.
I laugh and all this stuff. I'm always going up, and even though there's down stuff, it's waves of happiness and sadness for me. Like, I apologize for this.
Okay.
Usually I have Avi here, and he's always like bumping me up to more lighter topics because I'm okay with talking about serious things, and he might yell at me for being all so depressive. I'm not trying to be.
No, but yeah, it's fine. I will say, being identifying as trans and sort of starting to be introspective and figuring out my gender has actively changed both the way I stream and also how I like DM campaigns.
Oh yeah, Dungeons and Dragons. I gotta move in my seat. Dungeons and Dragons. I have to listen to this. I'm getting into intense listening here.
So I ran a couple very short, unsuccessful campaigns when I was younger.
Oh yeah,
I do run a campaign that's running a lot longer than all of the other ones do right now. And I've just realized that it's been actively handled a lot different.
And how would you say so?
Well, so the first thing I did was, and this is the thing that I'm just going to continue doing from now on, is the players had a very large hand in building the world itself. The DMing playstyle I have is far more collaborative, where I approach it from a situation where we're all working together to tell a story, and as a result, like like the players will get more input than you would typically expect in a generic D&D game. So because I played Pathfinder for a while.
I played Pathfinder twice.
Pathfinder Society, which was like once a week you would go to like a game shop and there'd be people that would run like one-shot adventures.
Oh, kind of like Adventures League for 5e.
Yeah, it's the same sort of concept. And like while I like parts of Pathfinder as a game, I was absolutely miserable in Pathfinder Society.
Was it the game system or was it the people? Because
it was
going
mostly
to the people.
Oh, good.
Yeah, people at the Adventures League. I remember my wife didn't want to go because of some of the creepy old men there. I know that there was 2 girls there that also got scared away by this creepy old guy, and so that was my experience with that. There's more things to that, but do continue.
Well, yeah, it was a situation where like the how Pathfinder Society was structured kind of didn't work for me, because I would build these characters that would ideally have character growth and arcs and things like that, but would never get addressed because people were building characters specifically to I ran into a lot of min-maxing, and so as a result it wasn't fun to play at those tables where people ran characters that would just be really good at like combat and nothing else or whatever. And then I was playing a character who like was built like an actual like character and not like it would be in like a campaign, and was making choices based off of like what that character would do, whether or not it was the right thing to do, sort of a thing.
Oh yeah, that's a thing.
That was actively miserable. However, while Pathfinder Society was running, there was also Starfinder Society, which is Pathfinder but in space. And we quickly, me and a couple of our friends, we decided this is very fun. We're going to do some very specific things, and we are going to essentially make it so you are either with us or you're not playing with us. Which, in the sense of like it was a situation where we were all playing characters and we weren't playing like society characters that were built for being efficient. So for example, I played a celebrity envoy, which is like the bard version of in Starfinder. Um, and they were a social media influencer, and their name was Carrie Fisher. Um, and they were the worst. They were the absolute worst. They never took responsibility for their mistakes.
Oh my
They
wife could
had
have a
no.
conversation with you about that. She gets so pissed. I play D&D with No One's Home, and she's just like, they don't take consequences in their actions into account.
It was great. It was so fun to play because it was like I was playing someone with a hyperinflated ego and would not take accountability for their actions. And I I did do some min maxing, but I min maxed it into charisma and nothing else. And how that manifested for the most part was walking up to people and introducing and going, "Hi, I'm Carrie Fisher. I know you've heard of me." To the point where the DM that we essentially stole the table from every time, we kind of made our own sort of campaign, which was very fun. Um, Created a wheel that they would spin every time I introduced myself to a new character to see if they had in fact heard of me. And it was you like, yes, I've heard of you. No, I haven't. I'm a huge fan. I heard you OD'd. My sister watches you, I think. There was a bunch of fun different things. It was very good. But then when it got to combat, I was useless. I was absolutely useless in combat. My whole character was built around trying to avoid combat in the first place with high charisma, but if I didn't, I was useless. And so what I would do is I would be like, I know what I need to do, and I would roll to pretend to be the creature's parental figure.
What kind of
Which worked once. It didn't work any other time, and like I was rolling.
It worked once, which means I need to keep doing it. That's all that matters.
Yeah. Well, and like when I'm saying that I I roll like a maxed into charisma, the way Starfighter was built was when I say I maxed into charisma, I mean that I was like level like 4 and had like a plus 16 to charisma.
Yeah, like you do.
And it was absolute nonsense. And it was great. I then went Pathfinder 2nd edition came out. And I decided I'm going to play one of Carrie Fisher's ancestors, which was a bard named Natalie Portman.
What are you doing?
I also, there was a really good thing where we had to use different identities. And so Carrie Fisher was like, I know what I'm going to do. And Carrie Fisher played a farmhand by the name of Mark Hamill. I just got to make a bunch of fun Star Wars bits. It was very good. And also I got to actively and so if someone was trying to like min-max or something and actively not make it fun at the table, Carrie Fisher could then swoop in and go, no, I got this. Don't worry.
Oh my god, Star Wars references.
And would shut that down. Oh, it was so good because like there was because the first one shot we did was we were exploring this like tomb, but it was with a reality show TV crew.
Wait. Okay.
And like because we liked Starfinder more because the Starfinder one shots were always just a bit more silly. But there were like we would get pulled into like confessional booths.
Yeah,
and we would
it's
have
not
to,
Star Trek. It's Guardians of the Galaxy. There's a difference.
Yeah. And so we did that sort of thing, and then we I don't know. There was another one where we essentially were on Fantasy Chopped. There was another campaign where another one shot, and this was my favorite one, where we went to essentially a K-pop concert. And And man, was it Carrie Fisher's time to shine, because people actively knew who Carrie Fisher was at that point. And we got to it was a lot. It was the Carrie Fisher variety hour for that one shot, which was delightful. And it was so fun because you could see that people started avoiding our table because it didn't fit with the playstyle that people wanted to do. Which was fine because the people that came understood that they were there for the bit, and were actively there to like play along with it. And it got to a point where like it was because it was at a game store. I would go to like buy like snacks or whatever during break, or
Oh
I
yeah.
would buy like new dice or something, and like staff would be like, "Are you Carrie Fisher?" And I'm like, "Yes, that is the character I play." And they're like, I can hear it sometimes, and you're doing a great job." I'm like, "Thank you so much."
I mean, for joking, I do add a bit of humor into my games. I remember when I was even younger, I've been dungeon mastering since 6th grade. I've been going in, and I did have more humor, and it rose up to a point where I remember they were saving this city from the demon lord Mephistopheles. He was invading, and I made it like a joke of like the city's on fire and demons are tossing babies through windows.
Oh,
And
goodness.
I started to go away from more of humor and more into a dark fantasy. That's what I still do, but I still have less of such things. Because my favorite franchise of all time is Berserk, a very dark story, dark fantasy, and Dark Souls and all that. I enjoy the dark fantasy, and I like to add a world with consequences. So I have my own homebrew world where I just sandbox it, and people go in, and literally anything you do, I have these entire bits that go off, and people change the world going off. So far, since the start of this thing, they have a group on my world, the High Templar Order, anti-magic, and my wife has been trying to kill them for about 5 years now, with several of her characters going out of her way to kill the Templars and whatnot. But she was last week. She was surprised because Mephistopheles made a returning appearance with No One's Home. They were in the Abyss, in Shendevaleria, which is the one of the layers of the Abyss that was home to the Demon Queen of Succubus. They got into there. That was all of No One's and his friend's fault. My wife got upset at them, and she forced them to go fix everything. They fucked up, and that's all that really matters. So they went down, and they decided, hey, we need money to go do things in, because it's not just like it's an abyssal hell. There was an actual city there that they were in, and they had money that they needed to purchase things with. Like, all right, we need to go to get money, and so they go to this weird sporting event that's like handball mixed with like Jenga.
Huh.
Yeah. You throw balls at the enemy's tower, and there's a goalie, and they hit it away with clubs and the stuff. And they were looking around to steal from people's pockets. They did not end up doing that. I knew that there was a VIP section, and Mephistopheles was in there in the VIP section.
Ooh.
And no one's like, I want to go up there and pretend I'm just like, I know where I'm going, and I'm just gonna persuasion myself in there. It just rolls and gets a natural 20 as a sorcerer, so he has a high charisma. So he just like walks in like he owns the place, and then it's like the guard's like, yeah, he's supposed to go in there. So he just starts talking with Mephistopheles. Anyway, Mephistopheles ends up framing them all for murder.
Oh, well, you know.
And now they're working for Mephistopheles, and they have no idea what Mephistopheles wants, but the thing that they were in the Abyss to get, he has it now. So that's a problem.
Okay. That's fun. Yeah, and like well, and like the world I'm building ended up being kind of a collaboration with Lucky, because it was old world building stuff that they did. And then I was like, haha, what if I ran a D&D campaign for you? And that's kind of where that started. But the nice thing is like, I don't know, I've gotten to a point where I am comfortable enough in my things like my identity where I can take larger risks as a new DM, and trust that my friends are going to be there for it, and also just have more faith in my own abilities, and that ends up really working out for the campaign because the campaign we're in is it's I'm in love with it. We've built the world together and it's very fun. So essentially it all revolves around the fact that um there's this organization called PRAE, PRAE, which stands for the Planar Research Analysis and Exploration Institute.
So you go for planar
Um
adventures as well?
yeah, so that's
I love
each
planar
each each
adventures.
arc is structured around them visiting a different plane. So right now we're still in our first arc, but they're in the plane of air, and it's great, like because it's a world where like this organization's been around and is responsible for interplanar travel, and you've got interplanar airships and things like that. Um, and so it's got a very fun kind of like steampunk slash Star Trek sort of
Like feel to it.
fantasy vibe. Um, but it's really nice because I trust my players to um understand, like they're I know that kind of they're going to be, I can let them loose and trust that they are going to um find their way to the plot beats that I've set up. Um
Well, it's a collaborative storytelling game. That's what
yeah,
Dungeons and
exactly.
Dragons
And like
is.
and it's just it's one of those things where like when I was younger and trying to DM, I was so like in my own head, and
Yep.
there was a lot like I was worried about um
Missing
like
plot beats.
we're getting missing plot
Railroading.
beats and doing a good job and making sure I wasn't railroading, and like now like it's a situation where I'm like, yeah, here is the general gist of what I need to what needs to happen in
You,
the world.
you know what?
But if they don't, if they move away from it, I that's fine. It doesn't mean that those things stop happening.
Oh, yeah. The clock is
Like
always
they,
ticking.
yeah, they got into a situation right now where they had to deal with the question: do they just leave, or do they go finish their mission? Um, and that we there was a good like 20-minute long discussion, and I just was like, cards on the table. I'm If you guys want to leave, you guys can leave, and we will just I have places you can go. However, that doesn't mean the stuff that's happening here is going to stop, and you might run into that again. Because I like for a while in between DMing, I listened to, because I worked in doing freight, and so as a result, I had to occupy my time a lot. And so I started listening to podcasts. Um, and
Uh,
I got really into tabletop podcasts, starting with the Adventure Zone, and then transitioning into like Friends at the Table
you know what I highly
and
suggest?
Campaign. What?
Listening to all of Matthew Colville's Running the Game series.
Okay.
Matthew Colville is a huge space in the Dungeons and Dragons community. He actually released 2 books so far for supplements onto 5th edition, Strongholds and Followers, building your own stronghold and getting followers to go through there. And we use that, and that's why no one's always excited about my games, because I allow that to happen. And next, his other one is Kingdoms and Warfare, so imagining having your own army and actually fighting people.
Yeah.
And yeah, Matthew Colville, he has like 90 different videos about running the game, and he has campaign diaries about the games that he's ran, which I highly suggest all of, because, as he says, you are only the best dungeon master as the obscurity of your references. He would just steal things from other things that he's played before and things that he's read, and no one would know what it was, and they're like, he's amazing, and he's like, yes, I am perfect. Not like that, I mean, but still.
No, I gotcha.
Yeah. And I mean, when I was in middle school and high school, I remember, oh my god, running. I was the forever DM, so I was running twice a week on Wednesday and Friday. So I would have to get a lot of stuff prepped and a lot of stuff ready for a while, where we would go, and I'd have to shout so much stuff that my brain would just die. And Abby was like, "Are you okay, man?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good. I like throw things from anything I would be playing or reading and just trying to like get some ideas because I was just burning myself out of being a dungeon master. Until eventually I stopped because the people I was playing with were just awful. There's one person, I can't name his name because he might watch this. It's just, he made us stop playing a campaign.
Yeah.
Because of something that happened. And this is just, it shouldn't have to be said. Like, it's like a triggering warning that just makes me so angry at this fucking guy. That if you ever use your character to R-word another character in game, you are the bad person.
Ooh. Yeah.
And it's like, we stopped playing that game because of this fucking idiot. And it just...
it's one of those things where, like, when I start a campaign, because I've got some other campaigns in the works as well, once I have all the players, I'm like, cool, awesome. Here are consent checklists.
Oh, yeah. That's what I need to do.
You are going to tell me what you are and aren't comfortable with. And also, here are some ground rules for how you're going to play. Which one of them is that, like, any sort of, like, it's, like, obviously things like that are not allowed. But also, like, a lot of it boils down to don't be a dick.
Yeah, one of the things I have with running dark fantasy, I do have situations that are pretty dark and grim. But I don't run those things with people who I don't know. My wife has seen pillagers and raiders and these grapists out there, and she enacts justice on them, as you should, for these evil people out there. And I'm not comfortable running that with the other people because I don't know these people. And so why would I just shove all this stuff that I don't know these people. I don't spend all my time with them. I'd have to write a checklist like that. That seems like a really good idea to do. I applaud you for doing that. Because I don't feel like people would be like checking that, like, yeah, I'd love to see some of this. Or like, not like that, but like being a good guy in that scenario.
Well, yeah, and it's like one of those things too, where like, because then you keep in mind people's trigger warnings. So like, for example, there's a person I play with who I didn't know this until we did the checklist. One of their triggers is decapitation. Like they can't handle it. Sort of a thing. Like they just can't. And as a result, like I was like, okay, well that's a thing that I have to keep in mind. It's just one of those things where like having those sorts of like trigger warnings and things like that is good for a DM, especially a good DM who cares about their players, because you as a player you don't want to be in a situation where you are actively being harmed or triggered or anything like that.
Oh yeah.
And so in addition to the consent checklist, we also I give my players we have the understanding that if something's off, then they can just go, hey, we need to stop, I can't do this, or they essentially they can pull a red card whenever they want, and we can talk, and I can pull them into a different voice call if needed. Like it's one of those situations where and this was a thing that changed a bit more once I started getting finding myself in like a gender identity, a sexual identity sort of way, is that sort of stuff became a lot more important to me. In the sense that I like that's kind of the part that sucked about Pathfinder Society is spiders are really rough for me. By default.
Oh man,
I've got really bad arachnophobia, and it squicks me out real bad. And there was a one shot we played that was Oops All Spiders, essentially.
Loth. Demon Queen of Spiders and Driders.
Oh, that stinks. But I was like, I could handle it. And then they were like, it would be funny if we then took the person who was genuinely afraid of spiders and made all of the stuff target them.
Oh my god, that.
And so I just actively had a terrible time, and was an anxious mess. And which is understandable. And like that's the sort of thing where I'm like, I would never like that would never happen at my table. That would never happen because that sort of thing would already have been covered in a consent checklist, and also my players would feel comfortable enough to be like, hey, this sucks and you need to stop.
Yeah. I mean, as of recently, I have not recently. When I was 18, I actually brought in, because I'm a cis white male and I'm straight, so I don't have a lot of other kind of viewpoints. I was like, you know what? I am playing this like a terrible person, and I started bringing in other things. Like, when I brought in the first bisexual character, I know people actually got really excited, like, oh, I didn't know there was actually people in the world. I'm like, why would there not be?
Yeah.
There should be more. I have been totally lacking in that. And, a year ago, they saw that NPC get married to a man, two men, a gay marriage, and my wife and her sister were just like, yeah, these characters! Because I built them up. One of them was a demigod, and the other one was a child of an ex-Templar. And so Templar being a religious order, they were just like kind of in a bad persecution state. And so they just loved these two characters. And every time they saw them, they were like so happy to see these two lovebirds, because it wasn't like a PDA kind of thing. Like they start making out in front of you. They had these small things. Like I didn't know that one of these things happened in Critical Role. Like Caleb would put his head against someone else's, like their forehead to forehead. And that's what I had them do at a point. And they just like, fuck, their hearts melted, and they were so happy that these two were together. And I started to build out more societies. I'm currently redoing my entire world again. Not like redoing it. Like I have this small continent that I'm building out, and I was like, I need more than just knights here. I want like Romans over here. I want like different kinds. I want elves and dwarves to be like humans, but shorter and taller. And I want like different kinds of cultures all around my world with different viewpoints of things. And it may be me, but I just have most humans as terrible people. That may just be me. And like, do you go on DM's Guild at all? The Dungeon Masters Guild. It's a site. You can buy third party and first party D&D books and stuff. One of the books that I've been on the list is called Aloysius' Guide to Social Acceptance, and it's just a book full of homebrew races, of monstrous races, including like fairy dragons, gargoyles, gnolls, Medusas, Sphinx, and Driders. And I've been like wanting to play a Drider, like a spider person, but you said you were arachnophobic, so I'm like, ooh, gotta keep that away from there. And I've been like adding a whole bunch of things. I know one of my players wants to play a succubus, so I had to make a succubus race, which was a pain. Because I also bought another thing, which is just monstrous races, so it just goes through the entire monster manual and gives you a playable race for every single monster race.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah, and going into that, and for sharing my world, because it's only just one continent that I've explored in my world, I talked to my wife, I'm like, hey, you want to just, like, populate my world with another continent? And she's like, yeah. And so she's been working on something like that, because I know that she has drow that are above ground and stuff. I don't know too much about it. That's all I know. I know I'm going to be playing in a game like that eventually, but not right now. Currently, I'm setting up for another podcast I'll be doing with my wife. It'll be a D&D podcast. I'm getting art for it right now. Because, I will gladly send you a picture of the character art that I got done for her. I just got it back yesterday, and holy crap, I love it so much because it is a very, very pretty woman. She built an oracle, like from from Theros. She built a supernatural gift in Theros. There's a part where you can get like starting gifts. And she chose this oracle so she can see the future at some points. And so she chose to have her character have like pale, like blind, like eyes. And she wants to be like noble-esque. So she wants to have a noble family. So I'm like, cool. And so I just like pointed to a spot on my map. I'm like, there you are. And I have a huge story set up for that, and that'll be a thing that'll be coming up soon. But yeah, D&D honestly has brought me so much happiness after getting away from terrible people and actually playing with people that are not lacking in empathy. I understand that sometimes I lack. I'm apathetic sometimes, but I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons. I can put myself into other people's shoes. I can do that with other people. What makes it so hard for other people to do that? But yeah, listening to Pathfinder and whatnot. I played Pathfinder when I was younger, but not too much. I played 3 games of it before we switched back to Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. As we start, yeah, we played third edition 3.5, but it was too crunch heavy for us. It was like so much numbers to do. My uncle was like, "Hey, I have nearly every single skills and powers book from Advanced Dungeons and Dragons." So we switched to that, and from there we switched to a different game system called Palladium Role Playing Fantasy Game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a mouthful, but it is like the crunchiest system I've ever seen. But holy crap, it's so realistic and amazing that I can't hate it. But I don't suggest playing it ever. I love it, but I hate it. It's this scenario. But it has been an hour. So let's get on to finishing stuff right here. And I don't want to keep you too long.
You're good.
Yeah. So everyone, this is again Mewbushie. You can visit Mew at twitch.tv/Mewbushie, which is spelled MEW. I'm not looking at the stuff. BUSHY. No, it's an IE. Yeah, it's an IE. Yep. Twitch.tv/Mewbushie. Also on Twitter. I don't know your Twitter handle.
Same thing.
Mewbushie.
Yeah, and you can also I just recently started a YouTube channel with Toon Lucky, my best friend. It's called Slumber Party Gaming, and right now we have essentially it is a YouTube channel where we're doing Let's Plays, and we're trying to encapsulate sort of the vibes of you sleeping over at your best friend's house and playing through a game together. And just kind of shooting the breeze. And right now we have we're working through Undertale and the Wind Waker remastered.
Oh, that seems pretty interesting right there.
Both of which are games I have not ever played before.
Oh, that makes it even better because Wind Waker and Undertale, that's a whole setting right there. Yeah, you got to get some co-op in there. Maybe you guys get some go on Steam and get Star Wars Episode 1 Racers, the pod racing one. Play some of that.
I played that on the Nintendo 64 when I was a kid.
But yeah, play some of that. All right. Thank you for coming on to talk with me.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a wonderful time talking with you. I do have to go watch my children so my wife can take my brother to work, though. I happen to be a father, so those things I need to do.
Understandable.
All right. Thank you. And yeah.
Of course.